on today's show, we sit down with play-by-play voice Jake Maurice to discuss the growth of hockey in Florida, the Florida Everblades in the pursuit of a three-peat, and what is it like to be the son of an NHL head coach.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to this bonus edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And we have a special guest on today's edition of the show. He is Florida Everblades play-by-play broadcaster, Jake Maurice. Jake, thank you for taking the time to come here. And thank you for also having me for Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals here.
Always a pleasure, Armando. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting one after the come-from-behind win we got on Wednesday. A chance tonight to take a commanding lead in the finals. It's always great when you have that opportunity to do so on home ice. And it's going to be a packed sellout crowd here at Hertz Arena. Crowd was awesome on Wednesday. Looking forward to another night like that tonight.
Yeah, and I was here during game 3 of the final last year, that 1-0 shutout win for Florida when they scored in the third period too. So just how it's crazy, the small town vibe here in Estero, just how much the sport has grown. But I just want to get your impressions of hockey in Florida before you came here and how it's grown now, because you grew up in you were born in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then moved a little bit and then made your way to Florida just a few years ago. So talk about your impression of the sport then here versus now.
Yeah, so when I was coming down here, I was basically alongside my dad coming down from Winnipeg, right? Super saturated, hockey crazy market, right? He'll get recognized everywhere. And the Jets are the team. They're everything there, right? So I was coming down here. I wasn't expecting it to be like a dead hockey market. I knew Florida, the Panthers were coming off a strong season. I knew the Blades were coming off a Stanley Cup, right? Tampa, of course, had been dominant for the first couple years of this decade. So I knew it was going to be good, but I wasn't expecting it to be anywhere near Winnipeg's level. And I've been really surprised at how much the people down here love hockey. I know there's, of course, northern transplants which help with that, but the Florida locals really seem to, over the last few years, have adopted hockey as a real part of their sporting life. And it used to be, you'd think of it just being like maybe the Heat, right? Or there's always the stereotype that Florida fans are very fair weather, that they'll show up when the team is good and they'll wait till the team is good again when things aren't going so well. But no, the fans showed up all year. Down the stretch last season when the Panthers were just fighting to get into the playoffs, right? Certainly wasn't a guarantee. They were showing up every night cheering loudly at what was at the time FLA Live Arena. And even here, right, this past season, we made it into the playoffs in game 71 of 72. And that didn't stop our fans from coming here every single night and cheering loudly and giving their best. And the fans, you talk to them, they get hockey. They understand the game. They love the game. So it's been great to see how much Florida really is turning into a hockey state.
Yeah, and don't mind us with the music playing in the background here at Hertz Arena. But
yeah, they got to get ready.
They got to get ready for the game. But now that the Florida Panthers have had their stamp here for now the last 2 years, being the father affiliate of the team, in their first run to the final, they were under Nashville. But now that they've had the Florida Panther logo affiliated with them, how much do you think that helps with the community connecting to not only the team that's just east in Alligator Alley, but also just a connection to just the sport in general?
Well, it's a natural fit, right? As you said, they're an hour and a half, 2 hours away, right? Straight across Alligator Alley. It makes it so that there's more Panthers people coming here than you'd maybe get with another ECHL franchise, just from the ease of access. The Charlotte Checkers, our American League affiliate, they've been pretty good to us, getting us some really good quality players down here to help support our playoff run, right? Mm-hmm. And it was the perfect fit at the perfect time when we needed a new affiliate a couple of years ago, right? Panthers needed one as well, and it was something that I know the two teams had wanted to do for a while, and they did it, and we had a really fun affiliation night game this year with a really sick-looking Everblades jersey, which was a ton of fun, and it's just been a really strong connector for both teams. I mean, you see around here, you see Panthers jerseys all over the crowd at the games across Alligator Alley at Amaranth Bank Arena. I've seen Everblades jerseys when I go to Panthers games. You'll usually see a couple of green spots here and there in the crowd from fans coming over to support. And yeah, everyone I've talked to loves that the Panthers have been the affiliate for the Everblades for the past 2 seasons.
And speaking of the Panthers, second straight trip to the Stanley Cup Final. Now different type of way of getting here. Now a different story for them. How are you seeing it this time around with how they've recovered from all the injuries to now?
Well, my heart was a lot healthier in March this year than it was last year. Certainly going up against Buffalo in late March last year was a nail-biting experience. It was really tough. When you played Buffalo in the penultimate game of this past season, it was just, okay, let's just get into the playoffs, right? So, yeah, of course, the expectations are different, but both runs have been incredibly fun, right? Even though the one last year didn't end with the way, the Stanley Cup, the way we wanted it to end, the memories up until then, coming back from down 3-1 against Boston, the win over Toronto, and then the hectic sweep over Carolina, the Kachuk goal, 4 seconds left. Those are cornerstone memories for a fan base, right? Those are the kind of games, the kind of a run that builds a fan base for decades, that gets kids to be lifelong Panthers fans. So it was a really important run for the franchise, and to be able to do it again the next year where you can just build on that, bring even more people into the flock, solidify the support from the people who were already showing up. It's just amazing for someone like me to watch from the outside, see how the community's growing a bit. I mean, I wasn't here during the dark times for the Panthers, right? I know there's some people who've stuck with this team since 1994, have been through some really tough times in hockey and stuck with it. So for them, I'm really happy, right? Because they get to see the fruits of their labor of waiting for the team to be good, believing that one day hockey would be good in Southeast and Southwest Florida. And yeah, I've just really enjoyed it. But of course, on the Panther side of things, still got to get 4 more to really get things done the way we wanted to.
And it's not going to come easy with Game 1 being on Saturday night against the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to take a quick pause of this conversation with play-by-play voice Jake Maurice to tell you guys all about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championship is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Now switching gears in relation to like your father and bouncing back, it's just how is it like watching it from afar and seeing just everything he's been trying to overcome with, and even the quote in media day that he had was, quote, "I'm 30 years into this thing. I wouldn't mind winning one," close quote. So just overall, how are you feeling about that?
Well, he grinds, he sacrifices, he puts in more effort than anyone I've ever seen put into their job, right? During the season, it's hardly uncommon where he's awake at 5 a.m. and he's not back until after 9 o'clock, right? He's driven, committed in a way that very few people in the world are, and it's showing in his work down here and what he's been able to help the Panthers do. I mean, of course, it's not just him, right? He's got a quality assistant, coaching staff, the help from the front office, the two sides being on the same page. Of course, the players have seen what they can do in the postseason, right? Some clutch performances up and down the lineup. But yeah, it's always super humbling to watch him work because it sets a standard for myself in my work that I want to strive to get there. It's going to be very hard because, as I said, he's top of the class in pretty much everything in his career. And I don't think there's anything else he can really say except how proud I am to be his son. And every day that I get to watch him work and watch him give up a lot of things that he would really like to do in exchange for what he knows needs to be done, even when it's not going great, right? Even when things are a little bit hectic, maybe some stuff didn't bounce your way right, you got some bad calls against you. Just getting through it, grinding through it, and having that mindset that if you do the right things and the right things will happen for you, that's been invaluable in my life. So yeah, there's not enough to be said about how hard he works and how proud I am of him for doing it.
And just the humbling experience, just the humbling answer that he gives to the media too, and just about when he's just fourth all time in wins, and also discussing the people above him, saying, "I got to win a cup first before you can consider me one of the greatest." And he's humble. He's really humbled about that too when it comes to that. So that's another thing about. And also, he had an interview with Katie Engleson the other day about his responses to the media and how people learn from him. But then he also gave you a mention too about, hey, my son's a broadcaster too. So also in relation to you, how does it prepare you for when you answer some tough questions to coaches outside of your dad, and preparing for those responses that you might not get?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of an understanding more. Because I grew up with him, and because I saw what it was like, the difference between coming home after a win, after a loss, right? Especially depending on how the win or loss happened, right? Some losses are a lot easier to handle than others. It's knowing when's the right time to ask a certain question, when to hold. For some of the home games here, I'll conduct the post-game media press conference, especially right now, right? It's the finals. We have a lot more press than we usually have. So, how to handle those, making sure that people going in there know if there's anything we're not talking about tonight, right? Because my coach, Brad Ralph, he's awesome. One of the best I put him into the NHL for sure, just on sheer coaching ability and work ethic alone. And also in terms of the media, he's always honest, always is willing to tell you what he thinks, why something happened. He's not going to shy away from a tough question, but understanding the human side of it for how to handle a coach who just had a tough loss, or how to handle something when you feel like you should have had the win, but there was a missed call that didn't go your way, and that really had a big impact on the game, how to handle it in a diplomatic fashion, right? That's really important to leverage your relationship with the hockey side. And so growing up with my dad has helped me get a big step up in that.
We're going to take a quick pause from this conversation with play-by-play voice Jake Maurice to tell you guys all about FanDuel. And it's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel gives you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Yeah, and also you just never know. You mentioned a call going one way, a puck bouncing off someone's hip or body or shoulder. You never know how it's going to go.
Look at Game 1 against the Rangers, right?
Yeah.
The insurance marker is put in by Lafreniere, right? So if you're going into that press conference with Peter Laviolette or Alexis Lafreniere, not necessarily like that you have to shy away from question about that, but there's a certain level of respect, a right way to approach it that I've learned through growing up with my dad and talking with him both as his son and as a broadcaster later on. What's the best way to go about a situation like that? Because we've seen reporters handled poorly and then they lose access. The hockey staff doesn't want to really talk to them anymore, gives them short, curt, useless answers, right? So I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to put our coach into that situation where you burn a bridge. So it's important to know, well, from what I've learned from my dad, it's helped me learn the important things on handling both sides, the media and the hockey staff.
Yeah. A few more questions before we get you out of here. We're recording this before.
Clock's counting down. We're getting closer.
Yeah, under 65 minutes until puck drop from the time of this recording. So this recording is before Game 4. Game 5 is on Saturday night at the same time as Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. How hard is that going to be for you to have your attention here, but also knowing what's going on just 100 miles away?
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for sure. I mean, the schedule got released right before Game 2 against Kansas City, and I was like, oh, come on. Couldn't have been Sunday. I was praying, let's get it done Friday, let's sweep them. But Kansas City, with a really strong effort, they were able to win Game 2, tie the series, force Game 5 tomorrow. And I'm hopeful that Kansas City doesn't force us back out to Independence, Missouri, because then I'll also be missing game 2. But as for how I'm going to handle that, I get a little bit of a benefit. Our game is going to start at 7. The Panthers game will start at 8. So there's a little bit of a stagger. The stagger will help a little bit. Here, though, it's a finals game. Even if it was a regular season game, I'm all in on the Blades when I'm working, right? It's about showing up to work every day. Like I said, trying to follow in my dad's footsteps of being professional, being hardworking all the time. So when I'm here, I'll be all focused on the Everblades. Maybe the odd time in the intermission, I'll squeak in a look at my phone, right? And I mean, it's a playoff series against a Canadian team. There's going to be no shortage of updates that come through social media, so it's going to be hard for me to avoid it anyways, right? Everyone around here is talking about the finals too, right? It's so cool that we're running into the finals at the same time as the Panthers. So I'm certain even if I were to throw my phone into the lake outside, that I'd still get updates from the other people around here.
Yeah, you just can't avoid it at this point. And then people knowing who you are, too.
So I'm hopeful that the third period, we're going to be celebrating on our home ice for a third straight year. But we'll see. Either way, though, as long as the Blaze game is going, that's where my focus will be, and my prayers will just be over on the other side.
Yeah. So, hey, still got business to take care of, too. Yeah. So still 2 more wins until the Florida Everblades make history. So which would be the first since the Kelly Cup was awarded in 1989.
4 teams have tried before us to complete a three-peat. We've already made it further than any of them. We're the first team to even get to the conference finals, never mind the finals. And, of course, as you said, 2 wins away, but Kansas City, they were the best team in the regular season. They were the best team in ECHL history on the road, and they haven't lost back-to-back games in the playoffs this year. So certainly not going to be an easy one tonight. And as you know, anytime you look past an opponent, you're going to be looking into the offseason not too long after that.
Yeah, and thankfully for them, after being down 3-1, they were able to just bounce back and get 5 unanswered there. So that was big for them back in game 3.
Wednesday it's not a sustainable type of win, but it's a fun type of win. Every once in a while, just like the Cardiac Cats, you get a nice comeback win. It really feels good.
And as we look in the distance over here, we see everyone at Breakaway over there. So that's pretty cool that they're also hosting the watch parties too for their away games. So that's a pretty cool vibe here in Estero here.
No, it's just like the other side. I know it's minor league, right? We're ECHL, but this is really the perfect community for a team at this level. And the fans around here, they gather around this team and get galvanized by it in much the same way as you see in an NHL city, where maybe you're not seeing like Everblades signs and logos everywhere on the streets like you are with the Panthers, but it's everywhere in the community when you're talking to people. We're talking about the Kelly Cup Final. Did you see the game last night? What do you think about this? Do you think we get it done on Saturday? Those are the kind of questions that are flying around everywhere you go. If you're wearing an Everblades hat around town, it's going to get recognized and it's going to spark a conversation. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and something I learned from this one guy named Ken Coleman is that when you're trying to move up in a place, or even just learn more about something, it's just the proximity principle. Yeah. Go to the places where people are doing things. Yeah. And with this,
right now, this is the main thing.
This is yes, for sure. And even if people just want to grow into the sport of hockey, because with this arena having 3 rings too, so that's another thing that is going to help.
We've got the FGCU club teams for D2 and D3 play over on the rec side, as do the premier and elite versions of our USPHL squad, the Junior Blades. And both of those have had strong turnout, strong years in the past. The FGCU team, the D2, at least they've been national champions recently in their ACHA division, and they get good turnouts too. When I was coming in here, I was kind of thinking, usually, no matter where you are, right, junior hockey, unless you're in a small town, can be a bit of a struggle to draw. But no, they've gotten some really strong crowds for special nights over on the rec side, and those games are a lot of fun too. Yeah,
and recently signed guys like a Gavin Bridley, Seamus Casey.
Lots of people were excited to see those two.
Cam Fowler was Melbourne, Florida native. Cam Fowler was also part of the Florida Alliance here too. So that's another thing about growth of the game.
Gavin Bridley's dad used to play for the Everblades, so people around here love seeing him sign and make his NHL debut with the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, so University of Michigan guy too. So that's another thing for him. One last question before we get out of here.
Yeah, for sure.
What is your most memorable broadcasting moment to this date?
Oh, man. Broadcasting is a profession that lends itself to memorable moments, right? Just like the comeback win 2 days ago, right? it's the kind of game where as a fan you bring your kids and it makes memories for a lifetime, right? That kind of win where everyone's electrified, jumping in the third period. It's the same way for the people that are fortunate enough to call these kind of games. Man, if I had to pick one, I'll stick a little more recent. If I had to pick one, our win over Adirondack in Game 6 was a lot of fun, right? Like, we knew it was a very high-stakes game. We were up 3-1 in the series. We lost on home ice to have to go back up. Trip to the finals is on the line, and we know we're in their building where they play really well. And, you know, if it's forced through Game 7, all the pressure's on us, right? So we knew,
on the road too.
Yeah, we knew. Of course, we could have still won Game 7, but we knew it would be far more treacherous to try and get through a Game 7 than just getting it done in Game 6. Just settle things tonight and get on the plane over to Kansas City, because we already knew by then that they were the team waiting. The group came out with an excellent road effort. We were up 4-1, a pair of breakaway goals in the third period. Things were feeling great, and then Adirondack struck twice. All of a sudden, the building's alive, and nothing's sacred anymore. Nothing's certain, right? It's a nasty game, physical. It had just everything you want in 60 minutes of playoff hockey, and we came out on the right side of it after a hectic finish. And after that, you meet for the handshake line, right? The greatest tradition in all sports. That after 6 games of hatred, those teams hated each other. They came together, just shook hands, and bid each other farewell after an awesome series. So I don't know. I could be here. We could be here all day if I was going to go through the whole career, and I've only been doing this for 5 years. But that's just because that's the kind of job broadcasting is. It's the kind of job that I'm blessed to have, where every day you come to the rink, you have the chance of making a memory that'll last forever.
Awesome. Jake, I want to say thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
That is Jake Maurice.
Thank you for being here tonight for our game.
Thank you. Great to be here, and also growing the game of hockey here in Southwest Florida and all over the state of Florida. That is Jake Maurice, play-by-play voice of the Florida Everblades. I'm Armando Velez. Thank you guys all for listening, and we are signing off.